Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Mother-in-Law Stories. What are the chances that if your mother-in-law really insulted you, that she would actually apologize? Well, our next OP has that situation because her mother-in-law really insulted her, and now the relationship is very strained. This one's from user Gray Throwaway. My mother-in-law, 57 female, doesn't believe that my husband, 30 male, is the father of our baby. I, 32 female, don't know what to do. My husband and I have been together for 4 years, married for 2. My husband is Indian, I am white. I have always gotten along with my mother-in-law. She was warm and welcoming from the beginning, and I really like her. She was over the moon when we told her I was pregnant. Our daughter, Sarah, is her first grandchild. While I was pregnant, my husband and I joked together about how the baby might look 100% white. In all seriousness, we both knew she would probably look very white at first and get darker with time. She was born a month ago and does indeed look like any other white baby, but she has a full head of black hair and brown eyes. My husband and I think she's gorgeous. Anyway, my husband and I decided early on that we didn't want any visitors in the hospital while I was giving birth and that we wanted 1 week at home with her before introducing her to family members. We just wanted a little privacy and peace during a crazy time. My mother-in-law wasn't thrilled by this, but she did respect it. She came to our house 3 weeks ago with my father-in-law and sister-in-law. She had a huge grin on her face as I walked towards her with Sarah in my arms. But when she saw my baby's face, everything changed. She began shrieking. I mean, shrieking. The baby wasn't my husband's. She flew off the handle at the mere sight of my child. She screamed at me. She screamed at my husband. She called me things in Hindi so insulting that my husband won't tell me what was said. My husband and I were stunned. The baby started to cry and everything sort of dissolved into chaos. My husband tried to explain that it's totally normal for the baby to be so pale, but she wouldn't calm down enough to hear him. They all left without any of them even holding the baby. That was 3 weeks ago. In the weeks since, my husband has spoken to her over the phone many times, telling her that he is certain that baby is his. He even pointed out to her that she herself is light-skinned for an Indian woman, but since my husband is darker, she thinks Sarah should be darker. She has refused to see me or Sarah until we do a paternity test. My husband has no doubts about Sarah being his, but he has asked me to do the test for his mother's sake and for Sarah's. He wants her to have a relationship with her grandmother. I do too, or I did. I'm not sure anymore. My family lives very far away, 10 hours by plane, while my husband's family is less than an hour by car. I was counting on my mother-in-law to be a big part of Sarah's life, and she was very excited about spending time with her granddaughter. But now, I don't know if I could ever leave Sarah with a woman who can come unhinged so easily. What do I do? Do I swallow my pride and get the test done? Even if I do, how can I trust my mother-in-law's behavior and judgment after this? In my opinion, OP, you shouldn't take the test, because now it's the test. What's it gonna be next time? If she acts this way and is irrational like this, then what's gonna stop her in the future when she has other requests about your daughter or whatever? I think you or your husband need to talk to her and she needs to apologize. But of course, that's just my opinion. We do have a couple of comments with advice and responses from OP, so we're gonna get to those and then we're gonna move on to the update to see how this story finishes. Control X the S says, contrary to other posters here, my suggestion is to tell your mother-in-law in no uncertain terms that this kind of irrational nonsense is not welcome in your or your daughter's life. Refusing to honor this ridiculous request is not denying your child a relationship with her grandmother. Refusing this request is standing up for yourself and forcing a 57-year-old woman to act like an adult instead of trying to bully and manipulate you. If she can't see the light and act like a normal, rational person, then you are all better off without her. Appeasing irrational, manipulative people only weakens you and enables them. Tell mother-in-law if she wants a relationship with her granddaughter, she needs to act like an adult. Also, keep an eye out for passive-aggressive crap and subtle resentment she may heap on your daughter over this. And OP responds, yeah, a big part of me wants to ignore her BS, but my heart is breaking for my husband and child. I was thinking of writing her a letter telling her how much I like and respect her and that I want her to be a part of Sarah's life. I would also include in that letter that her behavior hurt my heart because I am deeply in love with her son and would never do what she is suggesting. I would tell her that my daughter needs her grandmother, but that I am afraid that our relationship has been tainted by this and that we need to sort this out ourselves before bringing Sarah into it. But I don't know if that would be well received. Miss The Wire says, this is hard. On one hand, she needs to take a hike. On the other, you seem to want and need a relationship with the family? I guess I'd have the paternity test and have my husband give her the results, but she would be on blast, which is to say, the results would come with a lot of conditions from your husband. If you want a relationship with me or your granddaughter, you must sincerely apologize to OP in front of father-in-law and sister-in-law. You will tell anyone you maligned OP with that you were wrong. Anytime you act this disrespectful to OP again, you will not see the baby for X weeks. If you scream or act this unhinged again, you are cut off because I don't want my child or my wife exposed to this kind of behavior. If you bring up any BS about how the baby looks, you will not see her for X weeks. If your husband doesn't agree with trying behavior modification with his mother, I would refuse to get the test. She might remain a jerk, but you need to be certain that he has your back. OP responds, your comment addressed what no one has, an apology. Some people are telling me to get the test, which is fine, but then what? Forget it ever happened? Forget that the first thing she did when she first saw her granddaughter's face was to scream? I don't know if I can. Not immediately, anyway. Well, I think both commenters gave OP really good advice, and OP has some very valid points. So now it's time for us to move on with the update. I want to thank everyone for their advice. Everyone, mostly everyone, was very helpful, and it was validating to hear people say my mother-in-law had behaved badly. Yesterday morning, my mother-in-law called my husband while he was at work. She said she wanted to come back to the house to apologize. Seriously? Didn't expect that. My husband told her he needed to check with me first. I told him it was fine as long as he and my sister-in-law were there too. So last night after my husband came home, mother-in-law and sister-in-law came over. I was pretty nervous but tried not to show it. Mother-in-law apologized for her behavior. She said she knows that Sarah is her son's daughter and that I am, in her words, a good girl. She said that she is disappointed that we aren't including Indian culture in Sarah's life. We gave her a completely Western name, except the last name, and we didn't have any religious ceremonies for her, including the traditional Hindu baby naming ceremony. I feel I need to tell you all that this was a mutual decision between me and my husband. My husband was born and raised here and is very Westernized. While his giving name is very Indian, he has a Western nickname he prefers to go by. We live in the American South and he deals with casual and not so casual racism. For example, he has been pulled over by the police repeatedly for looking suspicious and even occasionally harassed at work. He doesn't want that for our daughter, so when we decided on a name, he was clear that giving her an Indian name was not something he wanted to do. We are also both atheists and didn't want to do the traditional ceremonies from either of our family's religions. Anyway, my mother-in-law said she dealt with the Western name and the lack of a ceremony, but when she saw the baby even looked white, she freaked out. She reiterated that she doesn't doubt Sarah's paternity and that she's sorry she acted that way. She said she very much wants to be a part of Sarah's life. I thanked her for her apology, but I also told her how what she did made me feel. I told her that I had really valued our relationship and had been looking forward to her relationship with Sarah, but that I'm worried now. I told her she behaved in a way that made me question her ability to spend time with Sarah alone. But I said if she wanted to, she could prove to me that this was a one-time incident. I told her that my husband and I had discussed letting Sarah stay with her one weekend a month when she gets older. On these weekends, my mother-in-law would be more than welcome to take Sarah to her temple and teach her all about Indian culture and the Hindu religion if she wanted to. However, as of now, that is no longer the plan. If my mother-in-law wants that privilege back, she needs to behave like an adult and treat both of us with respect. She agreed and told us she loves us both. We hugged and she cried a little. She asked to see the baby and cried full on when she held her. She cooed at her in Hindi. My husband said it was all sweet things and promised us that she would earn our trust back. She then asked if we would reconsider the baby naming ceremony. We agreed that if she wanted to plan it, we would do it. We aren't thrilled with that, but we are happy that things are working out. I will be proceeding with caution, but I am optimistic. Her apology was sincere, and it appears not coerced. She won't be left alone with Sarah anytime soon, but if she continues to be the warm, loving, and sane woman we knew her to be before this nonsense, then a year or two down the road, everything will be the way it's supposed to be. Wow, OP, I've gotta say, I've been reading these stories for a while now, and this is the first time I've ever encountered a mother-in-law that actually apologized. Usually these stories go with the couple getting sadly separated or going no contact with the mother-in-law. But an honest, heartfelt apology from the mother-in-law admitting she did wrong and wanting your forgiveness is a very rare thing. So congratulations to all of you. Hopefully this whole thing will be something you guys look back to and laugh a little about how your mother-in-law freaked out for no reason. What do you guys think? Is it too weird to find a mother-in-law that apologizes like this and admits she effed up? Alright, and now let's move on to the next story. How do you create or generate a relationship with a mother-in-law that 1. Doesn't take you serious and 2. Blames you for their child, your spouse, having moved away? Well, I'm sure you guessed by now that that's what our next OP is going through. This one's from user Throwanyan. Me, 29 female, with my mother-in-law, 53 female, and husband, 30 male, of 5 years. We're moving back to the States from living abroad to his home city, and I want to make it work. I have a history with my husband's family. I think I was always the outsider, as these things go, and after our move to Europe a few years ago, things reached a pretty nasty level. I don't want to rehash it, but my husband Michael was able to see how his family acted towards me when he wasn't around. Things like his brother telling me I was in the effing way during their visit, his mother supporting the idea that he moved from their home city because of me, cue surreal family discussion on how you can't wish me out of existence. Michael was astounded. He always probably figured I was dramatizing the treatment a little. It's also really hard to describe feeling unwelcome. But he has never doubted me from that moment on. This was about 2.5 years ago, and I hadn't seen either his mother or brother and other family since. Anyway, Michael was wonderful in making sure I didn't have to make contact or receive contact with his family if I didn't want to. He has handled everything quite excellently during our remaining years here in Europe. However, our time abroad is ending and my troubles are starting. His job has us moving to his home city for over 2 years, and since I've been so removed, I'd really forgotten how rough it is to be such an outcast when I'm around his family. We were at Michael's home this Christmas, and it was beyond difficult. It took me a while to realize how to put it into words, but I think I can finally express it to you here at r/relationships. His family is trying to treat me well, they are nice, and they play host well. But it's as if I'm not really my own person, if that makes sense. Anytime I added to a group conversation, it was as if I didn't speak. Not only did I barely talk to anyone because of this, Michael hadn't seen his family in a while, so I barely talked to Michael. It was like trying to make a joke with the cool kids at school. It felt like that, if that makes sense. After a few days of crying and being lonely, I just gave up and bought a book. Christmas Day was pretty good in itself, but I had gone for a walk to get some time to decompress, and my mother-in-law and her husband picked me up since she assumed I was ready to be back. Things are better in that his family realizes, after 5 years, that I've married Michael, but I'm not a unique person yet. I don't really have autonomy yet. The current issue. I had some pretty strong inputs about renting versus buying. We do not want to buy a house right now. Michael and I already talked about this and made the decision to rent in case we need to change plans quickly. We even looked at houses and agreed it was too much work for only 2 years. Michael doesn't really close down a conversation in a direct way, and after driving through the area we plan to rent, his mother suggested we buy and that she would get us set up with a friend to start the process. Michael listened to all the suggestions she made and feigned interest, but it was making me anxious since I knew we'd already made the decision not to buy. I tried interjecting, and she very modestly told me that Michael could afford a high loan easily and without my income. At that point, I just finished my comments with how uncomfortable I was with it. She was very adamant about being a big help to us while we finished our few weeks in Europe. She wanted to go see properties and take calls for us. I have a best friend in this city, and she had also offered to help if I needed it. But I told her that Michael would want his mom's input, and she had seemed to really want to be the one in that role. After a few serious steps in finding some beautiful places to rent, one property had been moving into the very serious column over the span of 2 days. Michael really wanted his mom to see the place in person, meet the owner in person. Pictures are good enough for me, but I know he really wanted eyes on the place. So I called and asked his mom if she would be able to see the property. I told her how excited we were about the place. I sent the link to the property, etc. The worst part of this is it felt like we had a good conversation. It felt like the best possible phone call I've ever had with her. It lasted nearly 30 minutes. The landlord reached out to his mother and they planned a time to see the property, and I went to bed feeling pretty confident and at ease. Time difference. I was so sleepy. I woke up to a message from Michael that his brother decided to go see the property. His brother is 21 and brought another friend he happened to be out with. I found out later that not only did his mother not message me that she couldn't make it, which stung, but she didn't even call or message the landlord. Can you imagine if you have a serious tenant prospect, plan a meeting, and then have 2 very young people who have no idea about anything arrive? It's a waste of time for everyone involved. I apologized beyond profusely, and after a while, the landlord seems to trust me again. Both Michael and I have signed the lease and are very happy and content with the rental. New problem. Right now, there's no way to send our financial deposit in a timely manner except through his mom, and this makes me beyond angry and nervous. We've wired her the funds to hand to our landlord in person, and seemingly she will. But I could hear her on the phone comment about how these things shouldn't move so fast. I'm sorry, but I don't plan to be homeless in 10 days. How is 10 days out too fast? Did she expect us to live with her? Is she purposely sabotaging us, or is it just accidental negligence? My problem is, sometimes I can genuinely tell she tries, and then she reverts into the I know my son better and I want this thing, your wants don't match mindset. And now I have to live within 30 minutes of his whole family, and I don't know how to draw the line. It feels like I can't go back to minimal contact right now, but I also do not like putting my trust in his mother or assume I hold a spot as a family member. I know Michael is trying so very hard to make life easier for me over his family, but it's to the point where I genuinely don't know where I'd stand. I'm not hated, but I'm also not taken seriously. How do I portray the idea that I'm nearly 30 years old? I'm no child, while still making progress on the whole everyone can get along goal? If she bails on delivering our security deposit, I honestly don't even want to speak to her for a long time. Is that normal? Yeah, OP, if she fails on delivering the security deposit because she forgets or she doesn't want to do it, then yeah, I'd be pretty mad too. It's totally normal. You're counting on her to help you out. Her opinion or what she wants you guys to do shouldn't even influence this whole thing. The good thing is it kinda sounds like your husband has a hold of this whole situation and hopefully he can get his mom to do what you guys want. In any case, we have an update, so let's continue with that and see how this story finishes. Hello everyone, I had a lot of really awesome feedback when I posted this. I know it's been months and months and I'm all moved, but it feels like it's been only weeks. I've actually stumbled on a problem I need help with again. But first, I thought I would update this thread since I've been a slacker. So really, I haven't updated since I didn't really have a concrete idea of where I stand with the mother-in-law. I left you hanging with the security deposit. Basically, after writing this, I had a really serious talk with Michael about it. I told him I don't feel prioritized, that I felt like the efforts I have put in have largely been useless, and that I wouldn't be talking with his mother until he sorted it out. Michael must have impressed upon his mother a lot, since he let me know that she had physically hand-delivered the cashier's check to our landlord's office. It was refreshing. But I'm not an idiot. That was a decision she made for her son, and she knew I was still upset. I think I stopped trying so hard at that point to connect with her. I focused on our move, and we packed up all of our belongings in boxes to travel the ocean without us. We managed to get back to the States easily enough. Easy flights, but we ended up staying with the mother-in-law and family since it wasn't really up for negotiation. Finances, time off, not a battle I wanted to start. I read about 10 books in a very short time span, but I actually was never made to feel unwelcome this time around. I didn't participate much in anything this time, not like Christmas. Actually, since I had stopped all of my effort, I felt a lot better. She asked me to help with a baby shower she was throwing for her sister-in-law, and I ended up helping too much. I think she was appreciative, but I had to remind myself, and Michael reminded me too, that I am happiest when I'm not involved. We've been living in our new house for a few months now, and things are going well. I miss Europe, I still feel like a visitor, but Michael's mother hasn't overstepped any boundaries. I also stopped expecting anything, and that's nice too. We've been over to their house often, for Mother's Day and her birthday, and it's gone fine. And actually, she sent us a homecoming gift that was completely unexpected. I had a lemon tree where we lived, and she bought me one to have here. I had mentioned it was one of the first things I wanted to buy for the new place. I know this has been long, but so far, it's not as bad as I expected. I'm trying to remain mostly indifferent, since it's obvious she's trying really hard, but I don't want to be mean either. Michael's doing an awesome job at checking with me before any plans are made with the family, and that way I don't get burnt out. I think when it comes down to it, for anyone else in my shoes, make the son talk to their mom, stop caring so much, and let it be a plain indifferent relationship with small highs and hopefully manageable lows. Well, OP, I gotta say, I think you're in the lucky pile of daughters-in-law that have a mother-in-law that's actually trying to build a relationship and not be too intrusive. It's a good thing that Michael, your husband, was able to talk to his mother and she had this change in behavior from actually not including you in everything to trying to include you in little by little. I do have to say, in my opinion, that being indifferent is not a good way to manage any relationship. You should take some interest in your mother-in-law and try to actually build the relationship. Who knows, maybe you'll be surprised. Maybe she's not as intrusive as you think and is actually just intrusive right now because you're not engaging. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think about this whole thing? And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys liked it. If you did, go ahead and click like. Of course, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Also, here are more videos from my channel that you might enjoy. And having said all that, I will see you guys on the next video.